Hey, West Hanover, this is Mr. Neff, and today we are taking a look at human characteristics of places and regions, where people live and where they work. So regions can be based on physical features such as landforms, climate, vegetation. For instance, we live in the continental climate region, which means we have very warm summers, very cold winters. But people can define a region by using just about any feature. And because our country is such a large place, some states actually have different kinds of regions that can be found inside of them. If you take a look at the map, you can see there are four different colors. These colors represent the different regions of the United States. People often group the United States into the four regions, which are the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, and the West. And you can see that we live in the blue region, in the upper right-hand side of our country, where it's called the Northeast region. The South region can be based or is located in the southern part of the United States. It includes states like Texas and Florida. The Midwest is this brownish color. You can see that some of those states are the Dakotas, Illinois, Missouri, and then the West is the final region, which is all the way on the left part of our country. That includes states such as California or Washington, even Alaska and Hawaii are located in the West. These regions are based just on the relative location of the place. Relative location is where a place is located compared to one or more places on the earth. For example, the relative location of the Northeast is in the northeast part of the country compared to other parts of the country. The states in each region share many different similarities and are alike in many different ways. In addition to being in the same geographic area, they oftentimes have the same kinds of landforms, climate, and natural resources. So Pennsylvania probably has a lot of similar natural resources, landforms, and climate to other places like New Jersey and New York. Because of that, the people that live there often earn a living in ways that are also alike. So you can see these people in the picture are working on some kind of pipeline. They can also be based on people's activities. So regions can, where people, people's activities often form and change over time as people move and adopt new ways of living. One kind of region that is based on human activity is called a political region. This is a region in which people share a government and have the same leaders. So nations, states, counties, and cities are all political regions. You learned a little bit about political regions when we were learning about political maps and how each of those particular places share the same type of government. The picture that you're looking at is the state of Pennsylvania, of course, and each of these different regions in the state are different counties. Other kinds of regions, known as economic regions, are based on the work that people do or the products that they make. In an agricultural region or a manufacturing region, those are just two economic regions. Another region that's based on human activity is a cultural region. In a cultural region, the people there share customs and beliefs and speak a similar language. The picture that you're looking at is of the city San Diego, which is located in California. That can be considered a cultural region, as many of the people there share a similar background and speak a similar language as well. Yet another kind of region is a population region, and that's based on people's activities. It's where people live. Today, about 3/4 of the people in the United States live in an urban or a city region. In urban regions, many people live close together. Almost every large city also has suburbs or smaller cities and towns around it. For instance, Harrisburg is located near West Hanover. Harrisburg would be the urban area, the city area. West Hanover and Linglestown would be considered parts of the suburbs or smaller areas that are around Harrisburg. People who live in these suburban regions oftentimes work in a larger city that are nearby. So maybe your parents or somebody you know actually travels into Harrisburg to work. Other people live in rural or country regions. So we are also seeing in West Hanover kind of the best of both worlds. We're close enough to Harrisburg, but we also have some rural areas, such as up in Middle Paxton Township, you might see some rural areas where there's a lot of countryside, farms, mountains, hills, where people like to spend time doing outdoor activities. The next section we're going to learn about is patterns of settlement. That's how and where people have settled over time. People have often settled in areas where the soil is fertile and where there is enough fresh water to meet their needs. So where the soil is fertile, that means that the soil is good for farming. It's good for planting and growing crops. But geographic factors such as tundras or deserts or even high mountainous areas have also discouraged other settlements. So people aren't going to want to settle a town or a city on top of a mountain. It's just not going to be practical. Today, however, people have used technology to modify their environment and make living in some of these areas possible. In fact, the desert region of the West, in places like Arizona and Utah and even Nevada, are some of the fastest growing regions in the United States. And that's because they've used things like irrigation and technology to help meet their needs. So they have adapted to survive in these places. The picture that you're seeing, it looks like a town or a development that's currently being settled in a desert region. You can see there are many people now that are living in these regions because they've learned how to meet their needs. Las Vegas is one of the largest cities in our country, and it's relatively new. Has just been being settled in the last 100 years, and that's because people have used technology to meet their needs and settle them. The next section is types of settlements. Settlements of many sizes can be found in the United States and around the world. A city is the largest type of these settlements. Together, a city and its surrounding suburbs make up that city's metropolitan area. Other types of settlements include towns or villages, which are relatively small, and then the smallest would be like the rural country settings, which are just houses that are very spread out and far apart. The picture that you're looking at is of the New York City metropolitan area. Some metropolitan areas, such as New York City, are so large that they actually stretch across state borders. New York City is our largest metropolitan area in the United States, and it actually stretches across 3 different states. And the location of American cities. Improvements in farming and technology and the growth of manufacturing have encouraged people to move to cities. When the country was first settled in the 1700s, most people settled in rural areas and countries because farming was a major industry that many people worked at. So the people wanted to spread out. However, that's changed over time. Now many people have been encouraged to move to cities. And as we learned earlier, almost 3/4 of the people in our country live in city areas. Most cities were built along coasts, near major transportation routes, or other major rivers. So when you think about some of the largest cities like New York City, it's built close to a coast and along a river. Chicago is another that's built right along the Great Lakes. Los Angeles in California is built right along a coast. Miami is another that's built along a coast. So most of the cities that you can think of are located along a coast or another major river or body of water, or close to major transportation routes. Sometimes the importance of an industry may cause people to leave one area and go to another. For example, when oil was discovered in Texas, many people from across the country moved there to work in the oil industry. Same thing happened in the early 1900s when Henry Ford built the Ford automobile. Many people left their homes to go work in manufacturing in Detroit, where the Ford Motor Company was located, or is located. And the chart that you're looking at, this is called actually a bar graph. This is showing some of the major, largest cities that are located in the United States. You can see, as we learned earlier, New York City is the largest of these. The blue number, the blue part of the graph, will show you about how many people live actually inside that metropolitan area. The gray number then tells how many live outside that metropolitan area. So there are about, and these numbers are in the millions, about 8.5 million people that live in New York City. In Los Angeles, there's about 4 million people that live in Los Angeles. About how many people would you say live in Philadelphia? have to make an estimate. It looks like it would be close to about 2.5 million people live in Philadelphia. Some of the other largest metropolitan areas include Chicago, Dallas, Miami, Houston, Washington with DC, and